Good evening and welcome to this edition of Eastvale Crime Watch and Reporting Show. I'm your host, Don Pettinger. I am so glad that all of you decided to tune in tonight. And if you're not live, you'll be watching us on a rebroadcast. I know there are many other things going on right now in television. The Yankees and the Astros, UCLA's playing Stanford, and I believe there's also an NFL game going on. But I feel privileged that you tuned in tonight. We have a really good show on tap for you. I know many of you have asked about different speakers, and when you do and you guys have concerns, we go out and try to get those speakers, and we have done that for you tonight. Later in the show, we're going to be visiting with the district manager from the Northwest Mosquito and Vector, District Manager Bill Van Dyke, and he's going to be answering all your questions you might have about mosquitoes or vector and a lot of other different topics that come up throughout that meetings or that interview. So we're glad that you are here and tuned in, but let's continue on with the show here. We're just having a little minor glitch. Let's see what's happening. All right. And there we go. So anyway, this has been a really good week. There's been a lot of terrific things going on in the community, and we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to discuss those with you tonight and make sure that they don't get overlooked, which can often happen. And one of those was this cheer bag that you're looking at right here. Someone posted that their daughter's cheer bag was stolen at the high school this past week, and G. Goot, one of our administrators, thought that it might be a great idea if we could, as a community, come together and possibly help this young lady. In her backpack was her laptop. Now, most people say, oh, what's the big deal about a laptop? They can wait to get the laptop. We're bouncing ahead here, aren't we, on the screen? Some people might say, well, what's the big deal about the laptop? You know, you can get another one. Well, it is a really big deal for this young lady that it was a special part of her education. There were a number of programs on that laptop that helped her be successful as a student. So you as a community came together, donated money, and the mom was able to get her daughter another laptop. You know, it's not just the community, but the organization that supplies the backpacks and everything like that, they came forward also and were able to donate another backpack. So we were able to make this young lady whole. And that's just terrific despite a terrible thing of a backpack being stolen. You know, if you happen to hear something about from one of your children who go to school at the high school up the street, Eleanor Roosevelt, please reach out to the resource officer there and let them know any information you might have. You can keep your child's name anonymous, and that will allow them to really investigate this better and bring the perpetrator to justice for stealing that backpack. You know, this last week we finished a great week, and that was Fire Prevention Week. And we gave away 4 fire extinguishers and a carbon monoxide detector. It was really a privilege of mine to be able to go out and meet the winners this last week and give them their prizes. I feel good about knowing that we have 4 additional fire extinguishers in the community now and a carbon monoxide detector, and each of our winners were just so gracious, and it was a great opportunity to sit down and visit with them and hear what they like about the show and what they like about the page. So congratulations again to each one of our winners. Their names were listed. Thanks so much to Mike Gayton for going through and doing the counts on each of the days during it. Now, being it was Fire Prevention Week, we know that there were some fires because of some high winds that came up, and they had to cancel open house that was supposed to take place on Saturday. As of this moment, the fire department has not rescheduled open house. And as many of you know, the winds are starting to kick back up today. So please keep the firefighters and other first responders in your prayers. Send them positive thoughts and good wishes as they get ready to potentially face another set of fires. Let's hope that's not the issue, but just that they're able to get back into their station and get back to normal so that we're able to get an open house and continue to move forward. Well, with that, we come to our next segment, which is something really important to us, and we started this in the very first week. That's called 60 Seconds to Survive. And the whole point of this segment is to take 60 seconds, give you one tip, and if you really put this into place at the end of 1 year, you will be prepared for any type of disaster, whether that potentially be a fire, whether it be an earthquake, an evacuation. Our neighborhood is closed down for any reason possibly, and we can't go out and get extra supplies. So we're going to take you through that over the course of this year, and we're going to share the cost, where to get the item, and for very reasonable amount of money, you will have your home prepared. If you remember, our first week we gave away this right here. It was a gas turnoff valve, and we gave this to our winner. We also said you can get this at Home Depot or on Amazon. The cost of this is about $4, and you just go out and you attach it to your gas meter, and in the event that you need to turn off your gas, you are able to immediately go out, turn it off. Now, with that, I want to give you a warning. If there's an earthquake, don't automatically go out and turn off your gas. Only do that if you smell leaking gas or if a fire has broken out in your home that involves a gas line. The reason we say this is once you turn off your gas, there's a setting in there that requires the gas company to come back out to turn your gas back on. If you turn it off just to be precautious, it could take a week or two if there's other issues in our surrounding neighborhoods that could affect you. So please only turn off the gas if it's needed. The next week, we talked about developing a plan. Do you have a plan in your home in case there's a fire, where your family is going to evacuate to, where you're going to meet up? If there's an earthquake, where's your central meeting place going to be to make sure that you're all okay? So that was week number 2. Week number 3, we talked about every family going out and getting a fire extinguisher. Costco had them recently for $12 a piece, and I know they don't get any higher than that, about $15 at Home Depot. Have one of those in your kitchen and one in your garage, the 2 primary areas that a fire could start. Now, that's how much further ahead. The next thing I'm going to show you is so relatively simple, you're not going to believe it. And it's this right here. It's a bottle of water. This bottle of water is going to be a hot commodity if there was ever a major disaster. So am I saying to go out and get one? No. Go out and buy a case of water and put it under one of the beds in your home. Each week, buy another case of water until all of the beds in your house have a case of water underneath them. And then every month or so, rotate the case out. If you have 3 beds, that means you have 3 cases of water, and that usually means you have 3, maybe 4 people living in your home, and you'll be that much further ahead in the event of a disaster and if the water gets shut off for any reason. So that is an important tool. Right now, Costco has water on sale, a case of 32, I believe it is, for $3. And so 3 times 5, if you have a 5-bedroom house, that's $15 to get yourself really set up and prepared, because water will be a hot commodity. So those are 4 things we've talked to you about, and we really think are important for you to go out and get to be prepared for the next disaster. We also had the opportunity to talk to Motor Mark. He shared with us a lot of information about how to be safe in our community, and he told us the number one issue facing our drivers is speed, and if we all just slowed down a little bit, we would be that much safer. Well, that takes care of all the housekeeping. I know today was the Great Shakeout, and I'm curious if any of you participated in that. It was at 10:17 today, and many schools participated in it, and we try to think of the Great Shakeout as something that we should be preparing for all year long, and it shouldn't just be a once-a-year event. Practicing with your kids, talking about it, that keeps you guys on the upper edge if there's a disaster that ever comes forward. I just want to let you know also that we have confirmed with Dr. Lynn, the superintendent at Corona Norco Unified School District, that he will be coming on the show. We are just trying to work out the correct Thursday. There's some football games that are taking place on Thursday and different types of meetings that he has. So we're going to find the perfect date. We will let you know, and we'll be able to answer your questions that you might have about discipline, security, or those types of things that take place on the local public schools. Dr. Lynn has been extremely gracious in getting this interview set up, and we can't wait to have the opportunity to visit with him. Before we get to our guests, I just want to one more time thank the administrators of the crime page who work diligently, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's Mike Gayton. You guys see him all over. G. Goot, David Ruggio, and Eric Martin. They work very hard at making sure we keep the appropriate comments up. They try to ensure that everything that you read on that page is factual, and we try to validate it every possible way. If we believe there's something up there that is not truthful or correct, we will take it down. They are also the ones who go through and screen all the new members. And you might also notice that we've started an Eastvale Crime Watch and Reporting page. And although you may see that post something, you need to know that when something is posted with that moniker, the 5 of us stand behind it. Someone called us the Fab Five. And we'll take that as a compliment, but it's part of being fully transparent that you know who runs this crime page on a daily basis, and that you're able to message us if you ever have a question, and we will do our best to answer those and make this the page that helps keep Eastvale a great community. So today I'd like to talk about our guest that's coming up, and that is our district manager of the Northwestern Mosquito and Vector, and that is Bill Van Dyke. In talking with him, he was wonderful and very excited about coming on to the show tonight, and he is going to be able to answer any of the questions that you might have about vector, finding out what a vector even is, and mosquitoes and everything like that. Bill, are you there?
I sure am. How you doing, Don?
I am doing terrific. We are so honored to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on tonight. So tell us, what is a vector?
So a vector is any living entity that can pass a disease onto humans. So for us, we deal with mosquitoes that can pass West Nile virus, Zika virus, yellow fever, chikungunya, dengue, all kinds of stuff. So St. Louis encephalitis, I'm sure a lot of your viewers have seen the scare of the Eastern equine encephalitis in the Midwest, primarily in the southwestern counties in Michigan. But we also deal with other things as well. So rodents, we constantly survey rodents for plague. We also look at ticks for things like Lyme disease and tick-borne diseases. So we're consistently looking at these things as well. But there are also things like flies that can mechanically vector all kinds of things like E. coli and salmonella and things like that. So always very exciting. Of course, then we also have things like fleas that can pass flea-borne typhus onto people. So quite a wide variety. For us, for Northwest Mosquito and Vector Control District, we're really primarily right now focused on West Nile virus. And West Nile virus is certainly at its peak at this time of year.
So how does an insect go about getting lucky enough to be on your guys' hit list?
So the insects that are primarily on our hit list are the ones that are most likely to pass on a vector-borne disease to people. So our focus really is to protect public health, and we'll take the number one concern for public health at that time, and we'll focus mostly on that. So if you go all the way back to the founding of our district back in 1959, most of the work was dealing with flies, eye gnats that could pass on things like conjunctivitis. But as times have changed, since about 2004, California had its first cases of West Nile virus, and that really put the mosquito at the top of the list.
Terrific. So have bed bugs made your list yet?
No, bed bugs haven't, but certainly we do deal from time to time with some phone calls from some folks that are concerned about it. And that's one of the nice things about my district is I have some amazing people on staff that are always there to answer questions and try to help people out in regard to other insects that they may be concerned about. So we're definitely there to help in any way we can to answer those questions.
So, Bill, let's backtrack just a few moments, and I see that you have a whole bunch of initials after your name, an MPH like miles per hour, that's how fast you get to the bug or something, an REH, some high school or something. Tell us what those mean.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I actually do have a lot more letters behind my name beyond that even. So I'm also a VCT2, and I'm an adjunct professor at Cal State San Bernardino. But what you're seeing there is the MPH is my master's in public health that I got from Cal State San Bernardino. And then the REHS is a registered environmental health specialist with the state of California. So I went through the process of becoming a registered environmental health specialist, which allows me to work in a variety of fields like air quality, water quality. So that was kind of the initial components of my university studies, was to get better familiarized with the environment and how to protect it and serve it.
Excellent. So for a while there was a big concern with birds, calling in if we found dead crows or things in the street. Is that still a concern? Do we still have to call you if we find a dead crow?
It absolutely is. And every year, the Dead Bird Hotline is actually started by California Department of Public Health. So what they're going to do is, as we're moving into the season where West Nile virus is really beginning to amplify and be picked up in the environment, one of the first ways that we find that West Nile virus is prevalent in an area is by these birds actually dying. So we're looking at a lot of the corvids. The corvids were very susceptible. So we're talking about crows and blackbirds. When West Nile virus first came on scene, we had a large population of the crows and ravens and some house sparrows and house finches that had no immunity to West Nile virus, and they were falling from the sky. So some areas had dubbed it the crow apocalypse when all these birds were coming up dead, and it was a good indicator that something was going on. And during those early years, they very rapidly began to test these birds and find out that they had West Nile virus. And we do still collect these dead birds. So if a resident does see a dead bird, especially during this time of year, through the summer months and into late fall, those are the peak periods for West Nile virus, and we're always happy to come out and take those birds and test them to find out if they were West Nile virus positive.
Excellent. So with us today, we have Bill Van Dyke from the Northwest Mosquito and Vector. And the reason we have him on the crime page is because not only are we concerned about crime, but we're concerned with the safety of the community. And safety goes with disease. And if we can make sure we eliminate and eradicate disease, we will be that much of a safer community. We can spend more time focusing on preventing crime. So how exactly do you guys determine what government agency attacks a vector? Like who got the chickens when the chicken issue came up?
Oh, Newcastle disease.
Yes.
That was an exciting time. And we actually had a little bit of crossover with that, because as the chickens were dying, a lot of people would call us and say, I'm worried that these chickens had West Nile virus. And, the nice thing for us is that chickens will seroconvert and they can fight off West Nile virus. So that one fell into ag. So fortunately for us, we didn't have to start weighing in on any of the dead birds. So really, for us, we're going to focus on these most important vector-borne diseases during that time. But in regard to who actually decides who does what, a lot of that stuff's going to come down from the California Department of Public Health. But for the most part, we're set up in pretty unique silos that allow us to focus on vector-borne diseases. If it affects agriculture, it's going to fall into the Department of Agriculture, even things like Wanglong Bing and the Asian citrus psyllid. Those are all going to be handled by ag, where we're going to handle the things that are most specifically going to be vector-borne diseases that can affect humans.
Now, do you guys talk about these? Do you meet quarterly and talk about who's dealing with what bug? And do you notify them if you see something that they need to know about a pest that they're taking care of?
We absolutely do. For us, the California Department of Public Health, Riverside County Environmental Health, and Riverside County Public Health, our agency, our sister agencies that are in San Bernardino County, Los Angeles County, Orange County, we all work very closely together. We have a great working relationship where if there's something that is of concern, we definitely share that information as fast as possible. Like, for instance, just recently we discovered St. Louis encephalitis within our district boundaries, and it was kind of a surprise because it's been very dormant for a long time. We kind of began looking for it a little more because the Coachella Valley District had keyed us in that they had found it not too far from the Salton Sea. So for a long time, for almost 10 years, we hadn't seen St. Louis encephalitis here in this area, and then had started looking because of the shared information that we got from some of our sister districts. So there's a great deal of communication that allows us to exchange information and do the very best job that we can.
Excellent. So I know many of you have been posting questions over the last week or so for Mr. Van Dyke, and this is the perfect time. If you have a question, put it in, and we will get that question up here. I know we're having a number of viewers pop in, and they're sending me questions right now. Just remember to put them in, and if you can be succinct so that I can get it up here and it doesn't take over the whole screen, and Mr. Van Dyke's able to answer that, I will get those on here. And he is very willing to address any of your questions, so nothing's really off limits at this point. But I want to talk to you a little bit, too, about vermin and rats. How do you guys take care of those?
Rats are a real challenge. So, the best thing that we can do is make sure that rats can't get indoors. If we killed and eliminated a lot of the rats in the area, more rats would just fill to take their place. They are a real challenge. So the goal is always for us to keep rodents outside the house. They're very adaptive little creatures. I mean, if we completely paved over all of Southern California, they'd get little running shoes and find a way to survive. They're very adaptive. So the goal is to make sure they can't get inside the house.
Okay.
And our district will actually do rodent exclusions for residents. So if a resident calls in and says, hey, I'm concerned that I'm going to get rodents inside my house, we will come out and we'll inspect the property, inspect the house, look for rodent activity, but most importantly, we'll let the resident know how they can keep those rodents from actually getting inside the house. So if you can eliminate their food sources, you can eliminate their water sources, or you can eliminate their harborage. If you take one of those three components away, then they won't survive in that area. And that's really the goal. So generally, when we see an infestation of rodents in a specific area, it's because they have all three of those components in ample supply. They have a nice place they can sleep, they have lots of food and lots of water, and they're going to survive very readily in those areas. So we help residents out by giving them suggestions on how to fix their homes so that they can't get indoors.
Excellent. So I know that you probably look for things that harbor the pests, the fleas and the ticks and things like that. With that in mind, you taking care of rats. Do you guys take care of the pigs?
I wish we did. I really do, because those pigs in the river bottom are a nightmare. So the pigs that we've actually, we've come across them in some of the areas that we'll actually go and inspect, and they are a nuisance. So they've actually been rutting around near the Santa Ana River and near the Santa Ana watershed, and have made all these indentations in the ground that every time it rains, they fill up with water, and those little pockets of water actually begin to breed mosquitoes. And our technicians have to spend a lot of time trying to get down there on foot and find these rutting areas and take care of them. Those pigs are a mess. They are a real handful.
So it's funny that you said that they have to get out there. So I'm going to put a question up here for you, and let's see if we are able to see. It says, this is a follow-up question. I'll go back to the other one, but it says, can vector control put boots to the ground in positive test neighborhoods and actively door knock for purposes of education?
That's a great question, and it's something that we always try to do. We will do everything we can. So we employ a strategy called integrative vector management, which is to use all the tools in the toolkit for us. So say, for instance, I have a mosquito sample here that I got from my lab, and you can see the water here. If you look very closely, you can actually see some mosquito larvae swimming around inside of this. And this is our best means for controlling mosquitoes in any given area. And we're always on the ground. We're always looking for these mosquito breeding sources, anything we can do to get rid of the standing water. We do actually on our website, which is northwestmvcd.org. We actually list all our community events, where we're going to be. We have public information officers that are happy to come out. We have a dedicated public information officer that will come to community meetings, to talk to PTAs, to talk to neighborhood watch groups. We're always happy to share our flyers. We'll produce the flyers and bring them out to residents. Unfortunately, it's a little tough to get to every neighborhood and do door-to-door coverage, but certainly with these, with I think the heart of the question is, when we have a West Nile virus positive mosquito that pops up, it requires immediate action. It's not the kind of thing that we would be able to take our staff and go door to door and expect to be able to really have positive results in making sure that those mosquitoes aren't out actively biting people. But we'll do everything we can to meet with community groups every chance we get.
So here's a question I tried to put on the screen, but it was too large, and it was basically regarding the truck-mounted spraying in residential neighborhoods. When Vector Control expresses concerns that breeding grounds are in residential backyards, why is the choice made to use a broad spectrum based product like Aqua Breslin that is not able to reach potential backyard breeding grounds? Paramethrin, if I'm pronouncing that right, is a broad insecticide that has, somebody's doing their homework here, detrimental impact on all insects, but not exclusively mosquitoes. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
All right.
And I wish that mosquitoes would stay in the backyard and not fly around and actually start biting people in other parts of the neighborhood. But mosquitoes just aren't going to respect those boundaries, and they're going to fly out of the backyard. They may be breeding in the backyard sources. They may be breeding in areas in the front yard. They may be breeding in bird baths. They may be breeding in your gutters inside, on the top of your house. But the reality of it is that those mosquitoes aren't going to respect those boundaries. They're going to fly all over the place. That's why we select those routes very specifically to try to hit those areas where the West Nile virus positive mosquitoes have been found.
So here was a question. What effect does the spray have on bees?
So that's one of the reasons we do our treatment when we do. You probably noticed that the signs that were posted say that we begin our treatment at 3 a.m. when bees are not active. So the goal is to get the material out there to have it contact the mosquitoes where they're resting. And at that time, the bees are not foraging. They're not actively foraging. So we time our treatments very specifically with that in mind. We want to do everything we can to protect the bees. We want to protect biodiversity. But most importantly, we want to protect human life. And as you know, with West Nile virus, if it goes neuroinvasive, it's a life changer. It is a horrifying event. A lot of times these folks go into comas. They can pass to death. They have to learn basic motor skills again. So for us, it's really about protecting those human lives in that area. Because all it would take would be that one mosquito that goes out and bites that resident, and their lives are changed forever.
Excellent. Make sure you're posting your questions here if you have any for Mr. Van Dyke, and he is being very forthright and answering everything for you. So that's why we have him on the show. If you're watching this on a replay and you post a question, he may not be able to answer it, but do you have a contact or like on a website that he can reach, our viewers can reach out to and ask a question?
Oh, absolutely. We really love the questions from the residents. It allows us a chance to make sure everybody knows exactly what's going on, and transparency is very important. I think a lot of us remember the times when people were being dosed by DDT and malathion was being dropped on whole cities from helicopters, and we like to really let the residents know exactly what's going on, and certainly with our website, we always post information in regard to where we're going to be treating. We're active on Facebook and Twitter. But in addition to that, you're always welcome to get in contact with us through the district in any means that you choose. We have our telephone number, we have our website, and we also have email as well. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give some of that information out. Our telephone number is 951-340-9792. And my personal email address is bvandyke, the @ symbol, northwestmvcd.org. And you can also find this information on our website, which is northwestmvcd.org. So there's but again, we will do everything we can to educate the residents and to do everything we can to make sure that folks are protecting themselves from West Nile virus and the mosquitoes that carry it. To this new ankle biter Has anybody heard of this one?
Yes, the ankle biter. It's not
Yeah, the
just
ankle biter.
kindergartners, are it?
That's right. So the new mosquito that is an invasive mosquito that was never here before, and it's taken over. And we absolutely require the community to come together with us to do everything we can to protect folks from this specific mosquito. Now it's called the Aedes aegypti or yellow fever mosquito. It's a terrifying name for a mosquito that is a relentless biter. It bites day and night. It can lay eggs in dry places so that it withstands long periods of dry spells. It is a real challenge. It only primarily wants human blood, and it is a relentless biter. It's called a skip feeder. So it'll bite you, and then because it only wants human blood, it's been environmentally trained to take a quick blood meal and then fly off and then come back and bite you again and then fly off and bite your neighbors and bite your friends. It is a real handful. Now, this specific mosquito vectors yellow fever and the dreaded Zika virus. Now, the nice thing for us is that those diseases aren't endemically occurring in this area, and we want to keep it that way. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that that's the case for us here.
So, Bill, someone asked, are mosquitoes active during the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 when you're spraying?
It doesn't matter if they're active or not, because mosquitoes are usually going to rest in areas that are going to be areas that we can reach with the treatment. And I think the heart of this question is really, what's the difference between the bees and the mosquitoes? And the bees are going to be within their hive unit. They're going to be inside that bee hive at this time. They're not going to be active and out foraging, where the mosquitoes are going to be exposed to the environment. They don't have a home to go. They don't have a place to go and hide. So they're pretty much going to be in areas like in shaded parts of trees that are going to be affected by that ultra low volume fog that's coming from the truck.
So that fog that you are spraying for the mosquitoes, does it discriminate between other insects, or does anything that come in contact with it
No,
die? All right.
It does have some specificity. It is most effective against black flies, most effective against mosquitoes.
Well, wait. The black fly is the official bird of the city of Eastvale. I think that's
right?
our official bird. So no, but
Yeah.
anyway, any flies you could kill, I think would be great. I'm sorry for interrupting. I thought that was
Absolutely.
funny.
Well, and that's the nice thing too is the activity that we do. 95 At least 95% of the activity we do is larviciding. So we're going out and treating these water sources. And the treatments that we use for the water to kill the larvae are actually very target specific, that they're only going to kill mosquito larvae and black fly larvae. So black flies are usually found in more running water, where this specific treatments that we do in the water sources are going to kill those things, only those two insects, and they're very target specific. Where with the adulticiding, the adult mosquito treatments that we do, the permethrin based products, if the bees are out foraging, it can create a problem for them. But again, that's why we select those very specific times that we're going to be out in the communities treating.
I know we've started hearing some issue about the plague being on, I think, fleas or something like that. Is that something you guys address?
Oh, it sure is. So, we for the rodents, where we will take rodent samples and we'll test them for plague, hantavirus, and other arenaviruses. So we do keep a pretty close eye on our rodent population. We have a tremendous lab staff that are really great at being able to take samples from rodents and be able to determine whether or not they have plague. So we keep a close eye on that, and it's definitely something of concern in the sense that we don't want it to pop up in places that we were surprised that it all of a sudden begins to appear. So with plague, it's something that we always watch out for. And in my time at the district, I've never had a plague positive sample from the area that we actually cover, but we have had some deer mice that were positive for hantavirus. And we had a cute little mouse called Erythrodonomys megalotus that was positive for arenavirus as well.
So this one question's not coming up for some reason, just part of it. Where can we find a schedule for the areas being sprayed? And it says the front of my house today is covered with a ton of mosquitoes, and I've never seen that happen before.
I would love to see a sample. It could possibly be a crane fly, which looks like a really big mosquito. I have seen that when there's a little bit too much water in a specific area, crane flies will hatch out of your lawn and they'll attach to the side of your house. Very common. And you can actually see a picture of a crane fly on our website. And we also have material that we're passing out. I would guess that's probably what it is. But certainly, if I could get a sample of it, I'd love to take a look at it and, and verify that it is in fact a crane fly. Because who knows? I mean, mosquitoes are always adapting and changing, and generally they don't attach themselves to fronts of houses. But you never know. I'd always be happy to take a look at it.
In the show notes, I just want to remind everybody we will be putting the web address for Vector, as well as Mr. Van Dyke's email address and the phone number to Mosquito Vector. So if you have these type of questions, or you can get him a sample of whatever is on your house, like he said, they would love to see this. Now let's backtrack just a second with the fleas again. As we talk about fleas and the potential of getting them off of vermin, rats and things like that, what about home pets like dogs and cats and things of that nature?
Oh, absolutely. So, and that's actually an interesting question because not too long ago they found flea-borne typhus in Orange County, and that came from the feral cat population. So they definitely keep a close eye on that, where we have an opportunity from time to time to comb the feral cats and check to see if they have fleas. Certainly something that they were very interested in Orange County after flea-borne typhus was discovered in Orange County. So the thought really is, what's the best way to mitigate against this? And certainly taking good care of your animals and taking good care of yourself. Those are critical pieces to making sure that your cats and dogs don't pick up the fleas that can be problematic, that can potentially pass flea-borne typhus on to your family or friends around you.
Excellent. You're doing a wonderful job of answering questions. I see our view count keeps going up. So if you have any final questions you want to have Bill answer, make sure you get them on here, and I will get them to him right now. Are there any cautionary things or things that you can tell our viewers that they should be doing to help prevent the spread of mosquitoes?
Oh, absolutely. I'm really glad you asked that question, Don. There are a couple of really important steps that people can take. First things first, standing water is absolutely detrimental to our goal of protecting public health from mosquitoes. Any amount of standing water is problematic. And, I'm going to show you, this is a bottle cap here from a bottle of water. And with this disposable society where we go through so many of these, this is all it takes for mosquitoes to breed. And I'm talking about that small of an amount of water. And residents can drain or dump that water on a consistent basis. So if you have a bird bath, that's fantastic. Anything that can help the California songbirds and the native birds in these areas, that's great stuff. But the goal is to keep that water clean, to dump it every couple of days, to make sure that those birds are protected. If you have a crow that comes and visits your bird bath on a regular basis and it gets bit by a West Nile virus positive mosquito, that's just going to be a really bad day for that bird. So everything you can do is first and foremost, drain and dump that standing water all around your property. And we've found it in the most unusual places. So I've seen like a tarp that was folded up in someone's backyard, and it was collecting a pocket of water, and it was teeming with mosquito larvae. And definitely, keep that image in mind of what I showed you before, that these mosquito larvae, they're pretty tiny, and but they're easy to spot. If you see water in your yard and it looks like there's something moving around in it, just get rid of it. Dump it as quick as you can. So that's the best thing you can do, is make sure and dump and drain any standing water to protect you, your family, your neighbors. But in addition to that, you want to make sure that your doors and windows have good screens on them, because mosquitoes can fly right through a very small opening. So make sure that your house is protected. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to sleep at night and hearing that one sole mosquito buzzing around your ear. So you want to do everything you can to protect yourself while you're inside your house as well, because, certainly with public health, there's that mental piece, and we all need a good night's sleep. And you don't want to lay in bed wondering at night, is that mosquito going to be the one that's going to bite me and give me West Nile virus, or just disturb me all night long? What a nightmare that is. So definitely make sure your house is in good repair as best as you can. Use insect repellent with DEET. This is really, out of every test I've ever seen, insect repellents that have a percentage of DEET in them work the best. We're always happy to hear anecdotal information, but from every test that I've actually seen, insect repellents that have an amount of DEET in them always work the best. And we've tried everything. I have a brilliant lab staff and a vector ecologist that will run tests on different things. And they actually got one of those mosquito wristbands, and they tried to see if it would work. And the mosquitoes were actually landing on the wristband. So they don't work great. And I love citronella candles, but you would need so many candles to really have a solid effect on the mosquitoes in your backyard. So those things tend to work the best. Mosquito repellents that have DEET, especially if you're going into areas where you've seen a mosquito, mosquitoes are active. But now with this new ambush feeding Aedes aegypti, if I'm going out during dawn and dusk hours, and if I'm going to places that have shade, I'm usually just going to take that precaution and do one of two things. I'm either going to use the mosquito repellent, or I'm going to wear a long sleeve shirt and long pants as well.
So let's see. There's a question that I'm putting up for you, but right before I get to that, are there any essential oils for the essential oils audience that's watching that says, well, I know this little ingredient works? Have you guys found any essential oils that repel mosquitoes?
I actually, the eucalyptus.
Okay.
And we do have a few things on our website that have a few different items that you can use. I believe it's called IR 3535, but the eucalyptus oils seem to be fairly successful as well. So there are some things out there that you can get that are more naturally based products, and certainly they can have a positive effect. But from all the testing that I've seen initially, the products that have DEET are going to be very effective, and they're also going to be effective against things like ticks as well.
Okay. This person brings up a really good question. They say, when folks have water in their backyard drains, what is the best method to clean them? Bleach, power wash in their landscape drains?
Yeah, that is a really great question. And these backyard drains that don't properly drain all the way out to the street and out to the curb, they are a mecca for breeding for mosquitoes. And there are a couple of things you can do. What we've found is that bleach is usually going to sit in pocketed areas. It's not going to really flow through all that well, and it's not going to be a consistent method for controlling mosquitoes in these drop-down drains in the backyards. The best thing to do is to go in and power wash them out and get the water out of them on a consistent basis. If there's a way to pump the water out, that's the best method. But if you can go and flush that water out every couple of days, that's usually going to be the best way to go. And then do everything you can to keep them dry. Now, the best solution is to water in a fashion that doesn't allow water to collect in those drains. And that can be a challenge. But if you can do that, if you can keep the water from building up in those areas, that's the absolute best solution, is being able to keep that water from collecting. And we've also seen a little bit of success with something that my lab has developed with my public information officer, where the drain tops, you have those slatted tops that allow water to go down into them. You can put some screen material inside that lid, and that keeps the mosquitoes from being able to fly in and deposit their eggs inside those yard drains, those backyard yard drains.
Wow, what an excellent suggestion.
It really works out well.
I think that was a great question and a great response. So we're coming to the end of our time, Bill. Do you have any final pearls of wisdom for the community?
I do. I, as an environmental health professional and as a vector control technician, And as the district manager of Northwest Mosquito and Vector Control District, I love the outdoors. I love my job. I love protecting public health, and I would do everything I could to enjoy the outdoors. And first and foremost, I would always want to keep my family well protected. I'd want to keep the people I care about protected, and I would want to protect my neighbors and my friends from any potential breeding that I might be causing. So really, the goal for us and for the residents and the people around us is to protect ourselves by making sure that we don't have those breeding sources in our yards. That is the single most important thing that we can do, is making sure that we aren't part of the problem. We want to be working together as a community to be a part of the solution. And the first thing that we do to make sure that that's something we can do is by draining and dumping that standing water that mosquitoes require. If you have a fountain and you turn that fountain on, mosquitoes will never breed in it. They need that still standing water. And if you can take that one big step, walk around your property every couple of days, enjoy the fact that you have that beautiful yard, go out there and look for that water and do everything you can to minimize those mosquito breeding sources. You're going to protect the people around you and the communities that we so greatly love. All of my staff are from the Riverside County, Northwest Riverside County area. We live here too, and we want to do everything we can to protect human life and biodiversity as well. And we want the outdoors to be a place that we can continue to love, to be able to thrive, to be able to enjoy the outdoors without having that fear of wondering if today is the day that we get West Nile virus.
Wow. Well, Bill, I can't thank you enough for coming on and visiting with everybody. We had you on longer than I anticipated, but there was a lot of great information. And if we can prevent or kill one extra mosquito and save one bee, I think you've done an excellent job tonight.
Absolutely. That's the goal.
So on behalf of the entire city of Eastvale, please go back and thank your staff for being so diligent and working with the communities. And hopefully we can better partner together as a community along with you to help eradicate these in all forms, but still keep your job.
Absolutely. Don, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm grateful for the audience and grateful for your time for having us on.
Thanks for coming on, Bill. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So good evening. What a great evening we had with Bill Van Dyke. He answered a number of questions that were out there. We took some from all the gardening pages that are in our communities, and Bill didn't shy away from any question out there. We will be providing his information on the comment section here and in the show notes, how you can reach him, how you can reach his office. And as you look, if you're going on Facebook to do a search or on Google, make sure that you know it's the Northwestern Mosquito and Vector. There's a couple of different vectors around, and you want to make sure you get the right one where Bill is at. And I feel confident they're going to do everything they can to help us as a community eradicate mosquitoes and fleas and ticks and any other type of pests that might cause harm to our families. Well, Eastvale, thanks for tuning in tonight. Anyone in surrounding neighborhoods that tuned in, we greatly appreciate all of your support. We work as hard as we can to make sure that you have information that you can trust and that this is your one place that you can turn to. Remember, if there's something that you would like that would help improve the safety or security of our cities or surrounding cities, put it in the show notes or down below, and we will do everything we can to get them on as a guest. Councilman Tassari, thank you very much for helping me maintain contact with Mr. Van Dyke. We greatly appreciate it. And on behalf of all the administrators, have a wonderful weekend.